Welcome to Midweek Online from St. Peter's this week. My name's Andrew, I'm the curate at St. Peter's, and I'm really pleased to be joined today by Angela, a member of the church family here, who's kindly agreed to share some of her story of coming to faith in Jesus and keeping going with the Lord Jesus. Angela, thank you very much for joining me today.
You're welcome.
Let's start off, Angela. Tell us a bit about how you first came to hear about Jesus.
Well, I was taking my son to primary school and made friends with other mums that were taking their children to school. And one particular mum was running a mum and baby group, mum and tots group in a church locally. And as I had some spare time, asked if I would assist with that. And because it was held in a church and they encouraged taking a little verse from the Bible and singing a couple of songs, it started to sow a seed within me, listening each week whilst helping. And I had questions myself concerning the fact that I was diagnosed with an eye condition that was going to leave me with not much sight. And I started having the questions, and I believed it was a vicar at that church that popped in one day, and I started asking questions. And my friend saw that I had these questions and then took me to the women's fellowship group one morning. And from there, I started to get to know more about Jesus. And yeah, so from there, it was, it just sort of carried on to the point that it's now encouraged me to have my confirmation at some point when we're able to.
We're looking forward to being able to share in that service together at some point, we trust. What was it, first of all, about Jesus that first drew you to him as you were sort of hearing about him, as you were starting to find out more from the Bible? What was it about Jesus that drew you in?
So I believed that I was being punished for my past and things that I'd done in the past in my foolish time before being a Christian. And I recognised and was obviously aware that Jesus sacrificed himself to forgive us our sins. And I learned to recognise that and realised actually that was not the case. And from there, that's gave me comfort and peace to know that.
And so now, as you look at what it's like to trust Jesus now, I wonder what difference does knowing Jesus make to being partially sighted?
I don't believe that being partially sighted and knowing Jesus will be different to anybody else, because being a Christian is it's no different being partially sighted, sorry, should I say, knowing Jesus, because everybody has the chance to know Jesus if they just open their Bible, and everybody can know Jesus no matter who they are or what they are. It's a very diverse world that we live in, and it's also the same for our church. So it's encouraging to know that no matter what life is put in front of you and your difficulties, you can all sort of know Jesus. And I think having learnt that, it doesn't seem to make any difference to me being partially sighted.
And let me ask the question then the other way around. What difference does knowing Jesus make to being partially sighted? How does it? What are the kind of challenges?
I feel blessed, and I feel I have the benefit now in this current world, because with the added bonus of technology, I'm able to independently do studies, and I'm able to access the Bible, because having a app on my phone, the Bible app, I'm able to access any of the Bible, and it's audio descriptive, so it reads chapters, verses. I can do plans on there. So I've just completed the walk through the Bible for the whole year, and so I did a yearly Bible study last year, which was great, because I've done that twice now. So I did 2 different ones, and there's lots of plans I can access and do studies on my own, as well as studies that I do within church, either on a one-to-one or in the women's fellowship. And I can do those and look at chapters within the Bible that we're going to study before we actually meet. And it allows me to obviously pre-listen and understand what we're going to be studying. But what I find is that God has allowed me to, from what I listen to, remember parts of that chapter. And it's obviously his way, and he encourages, and I believe that he kind of makes me know which bits I need that are important at that time to remember. And then I find several months later, I could revisit that chapter, and then I learn some more. There'll be different parts that kind of I will hear that are new things that I didn't learn from when I studied it, say, months ago, which I find great. And people obviously are amazed. They're like, how do you remember that? And I'm like, well, because God is helping me, and he knows the parts of those particular chapters and verses that are important, that I do need to remember. And I have this way of reciting them, which is slow, it's taking time, but it's not going to be an overnight thing. And I'm encouraged by people that just know where to go in the Bible for things. And I'm slowly getting like that, but not as in depth. But there is little parts that I can kind of encourage to other people and say, oh, you know, this is so good, and this is what it says. And I can do little verses now because I'm remembering them. So I think that's really great for me, and I really I just love that. I love the fact that I'm able to do that with the Bible. Yeah, and I know lots of people within our church family are encouraged by the way that I am with the Lord, and that I don't allow my sight to be an issue.
That is a real encouragement. Thank you for sharing it, Angela. This year, I guess this whole year of the pandemic has been a tricky year for everyone in different ways. These past few weeks have been particularly difficult for you. You were in hospital with COVID a few weeks ago. Can you tell us a bit about that, and how the Lord was helping you through that?
Yeah, so my couple of my family got diagnosed with the virus, and I then started to display symptoms. My symptoms became so severe that an ambulance was called, and I was taken to hospital. Once I was aware of that, like the next day. So I'd been in sort of a whole day, and I was in a room by myself, and I suddenly remembered, and not remembered, but sort of became aware that God is with us always. And I sort of absorbed that, and just, that's all I had, because you couldn't use your phone, so I had no access to the Bible. And so it was just me talking with God all the time. That's all I could do, is pray and talk to him, telling him how I felt, telling him what help I needed, and just to be there with me. And where I was doing this each day, I would pray and I would speak with him, and there may be something that concerned me or I was worried about, and I just put it to him and thought he will deal with this. He has this in hand, and I just left it with him. And then each day there'd be that one little thing that would help in my healing process and me getting better. And over the days, it just happened more and more. So it gave me the recognition that it helped my faith to become so strong. And as I was leaving, I just wanted to go around people and get their Bibles out of their little cupboards next to them and say, look, you just don't understand, you're so poorly, but read this Bible. Like, why not open it and see, and kind of say to them, look, this happened and this happened to me whilst I've been here in hospital. And you just don't realise, like, if I didn't have my faith and I didn't know the Lord, I'm just thinking, how are these people coping in here? How are these people being able to get better without knowing him? And so, yeah, that's sort of when I came home, I had so much to reflect on. And so, yes, it's really strengthened my faith no end. And knowing now that I'm a lot better with his help.
That's a real encouragement to hear, Angela. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
You've been telling me that you've had some Bible studies and you've been enjoying lots of different times in the scriptures recently. Are there any sort of verses or passages that have particularly been encouraging you recently?
Yes, so we've recently studied in Women's Fellowship. A couple of weeks ago, we sort of looked at John 10, and it explains how the Good Shepherd knows his sheep, and the sheep know him because of his voice, and they follow him. And I thought, oh, that's kind of like myself. It kind of felt quite personal when you're studying a chapter and you suddenly hear that. I kind of felt, oh, I'm that sheep and I know his voice because I don't have sight. So it kind of felt, this is where I remember those little verses, because I feel they're quite unique and personal to me, even though they're not, but you kind of get encouraged by that and are thinking, oh yes, like, the sheep follows his voice. And that's just an example of like little verses that you can kind of relate to on a personal level.
I'm really grateful to Angela for joining me and for being willing to share her story with us. It was such an encouragement to me to hear of her perseverance under pressure over these past few weeks, and with the health difficulties for her of the last few years as well. And lovely to hear of the Lord's faithfulness in answering prayers and in Jesus, the Good Shepherd, who knows his sheep and calls them so that they would follow him. I hope that's an encouragement to you with whatever you're facing at the moment, to keep going with Jesus, the Good Shepherd. There'll be more from our Midweek Online videos again next week.